A warning: if there are children in the room, the content here may be disturbing.
In Star Trek, the all-powerful force is Q. And he's a mischievous troll who is all-powerful. And if you were gonna pick a letter to troll the idiots of the world, you would probably pick the letter Q, right? She's a doctor, etc. From, including highly educated people, believe in insanity. I mean, and if you're not sure that it's insanity, one of the central QAnon conspiracy was that when Robert Mueller released his report, it was actually going to be a trick, and that he'd actually been working with Trump the whole time, and he was going to arrest all of Trump's enemies. The other thing that gives him away is the crazy eyes and the weird pauses.
That is so.
Q is you, and Q is me. Q is logic. Q is a plan to save the world. Q is not a secret, but Q is secretive. Carefully crafted secret education.
And yet you're like, oh my God, you're never gonna believe this. Q is you, Q is me, come with me to crazy land, okay? And so they're impervious to facts, it doesn't matter. And one of them is not only a doctor, one of them is the president. The president constantly believes in insane conspiracy theories, let alone spreading them. People think he's doing it for strategic reasons. No, he's just a moron who believes in conspiracy theories.
Under the code Q. Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet. It is gematria, which is a language I'd never even heard of, but is used a lot for people with power, we'll say.
And asking her for some diagnosis.
Q is you, Q is me. I was not aware of gematria. And now I will be looking up the language gematria.
I'm sure
and the number 17, because that is what all of this is obviously about.
An FBI bulletin was made public in which the feds single out QAnon and Pizzagate as domestic terrorist threats. The FBI assesses these conspiracy theories very likely will emerge, spread, and evolve in the modern information marketplace, occasionally driving both groups and individual extremists to carry out criminal or violent acts.
Those Trump supporters you see waving around the letter Q printed on signs and on their t-shirts are followers of Q, a anonymous poster on the message boards 4chan and 8chan. Q claims to be sharing insider government secrets with the masses and has spawned an entire movement, QAnon, which essentially believes the entirety of the Democratic Party and much of Hollywood are conspiring and running an underground pedophile sex trafficking ring. And the followers of Q also believe that President Donald Trump is working secretly with the generals to expose this entire sick thing, and that the Mueller probe isn't actually investigating Donald Trump, but Robert Mueller and Donald Trump are actually investigating the Obamas and the Clintons, all of whom are wearing ankle bracelets because they've already been secretly indicted.
The storm, the Great Awakening, this all started back when the president was meeting with military leaders back in October last year. He said, this is the calm before the storm, letting us know the covert battles that are waging between the deep state and President Trump and his military alliance.
So what do you do with that information?
Spread it. Combat the mainstream media. I mean, we're fighting a battle on all fronts here.
It's all part of a narrative, and there's a lot of money to be made with this stuff.
That's the other thing.
Alex Jones is making hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars a year, off of his various different platforms, and that's pretty compelling.
If you like to lurk around in the dark, fringy corners of the internet, watch out. The FBI says those places are a dangerous breeding ground for domestic terrorists. Yahoo News obtained a memo out of the FBI's Phoenix field office, which says that, quote-unquote, conspiracy theory-driven domestic extremists are a growing threat, and that identity-based and fringe political conspiracy theories lurking around on the internet are likely to motivate these domestic extremists to commit criminal and sometimes violent activity. Because it's saying that people who are interested in uncovering real conspiracies might become violent too. So it's not just misinformation driving the threat. It's information discovery that is driving the threat. according to the FBI, and the internet is enabling that more than ever. Even though this is the first time the FBI has been known to make the link between conspiracy theories and domestic terrorism, it's not all that surprising to hear, right? And they do list a bunch of times when people have committed violent acts who were known conspiracy theorists. But the FBI admitting that the real information about real conspiracies is also radicalizing people is the more interesting part of the story. It says that another factor the FBI believes is driving the intensity of this domestic terrorism threat is, quote unquote, the uncovering of real conspiracies or cover-ups involving illegal, harmful, or unconstitutional activities by government officials or leading political figures. They don't mention which real cover-ups they're talking about, but they mean that it's not just baseless theories being tossed around on the internet that is radicalizing people. No. It's also real conspiracies and real terrible behavior that our leaders actually perpetrate that is radicalizing people. And if you're the kind of person who likes to dig around for inconvenient truths, watch out. The FBI is watching out for you.
Also in the crowd last night, people who believe in the QAnon conspiracy theory. QAnon claims that a shadowy cabal within the U.S. government is at war with President Trump and that the president will soon purge the country of these enemies.
Q is actually a reference to the Q clearance. It's one of the highest security clearances in the U.S. government. Q claims to be highly placed in the government and has visibility into a kind of conspiracy of globalists, a permanent criminal government that's been running the U.S. government for decades. This, of course, includes the Clintons, the Obamas, the financier George Soros, and many, many others. The conspiracy goes on to posit that President Trump will team up with the U.S. military and crush this cabal by throwing them all in jail, starting with Hillary Clinton.
From signs at political rallies to online forums filled with talk of mind control and lizard people, the dark web movement called QAnon, once only found in the fringe parts of the internet, now on Amazon's best-selling book list. Anonymously written, the book contains a compilation of unproven radical conspiracy theories suggesting high-ranking Democrats are part of a cult that eats children, claiming the government created AIDS and saying it's also behind the movie Monsters, Inc. Part of a government plan, it claims, to collect children's blood and give government officials a more youthful look.
Pushing the book up the bestseller list and, in effect, promoting baseless conspiracy theories. The issue of misinformation on social media has in the past led other tech companies to take action.
YouTube restricting recommendations for some anti-vaccination videos, Facebook exploring ways to handle conspiracy content. For now, the unfounded and dangerous conspiracy theories lifted from the dark web, one of Amazon's best-selling books.
An FBI document published by Yahoo News found conspiracy theories may be motivating factors for people to commit crimes. According to the document from the agency's Phoenix field office, quote, the FBI assesses anti-government identity-based and fringe political conspiracy theories very likely motivate some domestic extremists, wholly or in part, to commit criminal and sometimes violent activity.
The document says it's the first of its kind to examine this issue and that it will act as a baseline for other investigations.
Well, so the FBI has been grappling with for a while how to monitor, how to track, and how to stop domestic extremist or domestic terrorist attacks. So they've been putting out intelligence bulletins like this, trying to define a threat. This one, which came out a few months ago, as you noted, it identifies conspiracy theories as a potential motivating factor for terrorist threats. But what's so significant is they identify the conspiracy theories as possibly being motivated by, I think it was, quote, the possible unconstitutional activities of U.S. leaders.
What's the FBI's role in monitoring these types of potential threats?
Well, so the FBI does have primary responsibility for monitoring domestic threats. Conspiracy theorists are everywhere. We all know someone or have someone in our family who has crazy beliefs. The question is, when does that cross over into violence? And that's the tricky question that law enforcement has to figure out. So the FBI is focused on these domestic threats. I think the criticism that some of the people we spoke with had of this approach is that, conspiracy theories have been around a long time, and as one professor noted to me, at one point between 60 and 80% of the American public believed in some form of JFK conspiracy. They're certainly not all, or perhaps any of them, domestic terrorists.